Hi there, I'm Debasish Roy, and you are listening to CEO Capsule. Today, we shall talk about the ability of a CEO to spend wisely as well as to save wisely. We are all familiar with the term of cost cutting. I think we all admire the ability in a CEO to cut costs. It is very essential. Savings along the way, throughout the supply chain, throughout the life cycle of a company is essential, and we all have to identify new areas where we can cut costs. That is acceptable and we all know about it. At the same time, I want to stress on why a CEO and how a CEO should be also stressing upon how to spend wisely. Expenditure is something that we do not concentrate on while running a company. A CEO, a vice president, or a project manager who's looking after a project or a company or an organization needs to focus on vital areas of expenditure that is necessary to run the company. Now, just at the beginning, I want to refer to a work that is a proprietary paper published internally by the Boeing Corporation, the Boeing company. We all know about Boeing. It is an aircraft company in the United States of America. So there was this Dr. Leonard John Hart Smith, commonly known as Dr. L.J. Hart Smith, who published a proprietary paper in Boeing, which was titled Outsourced Profits, the Cornerstone of Successful Subcontracting. Subcontracting or outsourcing is an activity where you tell an external company to conduct that activity for you and you pay that external company. We are all familiar with it. Generally, what happens is companies outsource non-core activities. They do not outsource core activities. That is common sense. Now, some companies, for example, a medical transcription activity by a healthcare chain in the United States would be outsourced to an Indian company in Bangalore, India, because it is much cheaper. But the point is that the medical transcription activity is not the core activity of the healthcare network in the US. The core activity is the medical science that is practiced, the surgery that is conducted, the prescriptions that are given out. Those are the core activities. Now, if they are outsourced, what happens is you are handing over your business to your outsourcing vendor on a platter. So there is a chance of creating more competition in future, and there is also a chance, a big chance of things going horribly wrong. Okay, now in this study in Boeing, it came out before Boeing began to outsource their proprietary technology to construct wings for Dreamliners. Dreamliners, that aircraft, 787, I think 800, 900. So they are a beautiful, very beautiful aircraft. I personally admire and love the Dreamliner. So what happened was Boeing was outsourcing the construction of these wings of Dreamliners and also many other parts. Things went horribly wrong. When these parts were assembled, they would not fit. And they were of different specifications or wrong specifications. So to make all those changes, all those outsourcing errors rectified, Boeing had to spend a pretty packet. That's not a good picture. So we all know that Dreamliners failed repeatedly in various airlines. The first victim, as I remember, was Japan Airlines, where the lithium batteries in a Dreamliner caught fire and these Dreamliners were grounded. Similarly, the Director General of Civil Aviation in India grounded Air India's Dreamliners. So later, Boeing had a problem with the 737 MAX, but that was an entirely different problem. But the outsourcing activity continued. It was there before the Dreamliners had problems, and that was owing to that outsourcing activity of core activities. And the outsourcing activity continues to this day in Boeing. Of course, they must have rejected after those problems happened. So the idea is, do not cut the umbilical cord of a company. If you outsource core activities just to save costs, you are creating trouble for your own company. Do not cut the umbilical cord. Your core business is the company's umbilical cord. It is the company's identity. If you outsource that, you are losing your identity. Okay, let us say a huge outsourcing model is the Coca-Cola company. But till date, it has not outsourced the concentrate. It takes the concentrate, supplies it to its bottling plants, and the bottling plants all over the world take the concentrate, add water to it, bottle it, seal the cap on the bottle, and sell it. Coca-Cola concentrates on creating the concentrate and advertising and marketing, branding. It's a great model, but they have never ever outsourced the creation of the concentrate just to save costs, because that is their core business. So never ever outsource the core business just to save costs. Now, the idea I'm trying to push is, do not fall into the trap of ghost of cost cutting. If you keep on harping on cost cutting and you identify all sorts of areas where you can cut costs, and in doing so, what you do is you cut the umbilical cord of a company, you are in serious trouble. So you can outsource non-core or secondary operations, but do not affect or even constrict core operations. You do not constrict them, you do not restrict them. Now, CEOs come from different backgrounds. The skills that usually make them CEOs are their ability to lead teams, guide teams, visualize the market, attend to the market, and energize company organization to be able to take the company's business or products and services to the customer in a way that delights the customer. The CEO's ability or inability to do the math is secondary. A lot of people, a lot of experts, writers have stressed the fact that can the CEO do the math? Well, it's a desirable skill. There's no harm if the CEO can do that, but yes, it's a secondary skill according to me. The primary skills are, as I mentioned just now. So, no offense to my chartered accountant friends or CFAs, CPAs. Now, if an accountant, the person is, if the CEO is an accountant here and nothing else, if an accountant starts running a company whose only claim to fame, whose only expertise is the ability to cut costs, you have a problem. A salesperson needs good quality CRM software. Cutting costs will make sure a salesperson is handed an Excel sheet instead of a real-time app-based smartphone resident CRM. Now that is again essential for a salesperson. A soldier wants a gun. A plumber wants his tools. A restaurant waiter wants a touchscreen billing software. A fighter pilot wants the latest fighter jets. Have you ever seen the movie Red Tails, where it was called the Tuskegee experiment? So this actor who plays the colonel goes to the general and says, give us new aircraft and we shall cut down your losses of bomber planes being shot down by the Nazis by 70 to 80%. We need tools. We need the correct tools. Do not give us hand-me-downs planes. Give us new aircraft. So they got these P-51s instead of the hand-me-downs, broken down P-40s. And the P-51, the Mustangs, really created havoc and struck down a lot of Nazi aircraft. And the bomber planes were saved. So you need the real-time, good quality tools for your workers, for your team. So if a cost cutting denies your team member the basic tools to fulfill his or her duty, then the company is in trouble and the downslide has begun. So CEO Capsule recommends expertise in a CEO for expenditure as well as cost cutting. Both are equally important. A CEO must know how to spend wisely along with the knowledge to save wisely. So do you remember the lease that Eastman Kodak company had entered into for a long time for a billboard on Times Square? Times Square, that famous place where you hire billboards to advertise. Now that is more of a prestige issue than really, translating into returns for advertisement. But anyway, that's a different story. So this lease that Eastman Kodak entered into for a very long time for the future cost them millions of dollars every year. Then what happened? Yes, the industry changed. Eastman Kodak's film business became irrelevant. Owing to the disruptive technologies, innovations that happened. So the point CEO Capsule is trying to make is that a CEO must know how to spend wisely as well as save wisely. Entering into that long contract for the Times Square billboard was not a good idea. It was just a prestige issue. They were too proud that they were very cash rich at that time. Camera films were selling worldwide. That company had a lot of money. In fact, I know employees in India who earned a lot of money for doing nothing. And suddenly everything fell out of place. So Eastman Kodak entered a digital camera business later, which proved to be a laggard. Now it is painfully phasing out its digital camera business, and the billboard is a white elephant. So now they are trying to sublease the billboard. So this is an example of bad spending. So this is just one big example. You can look around and find small examples. One example is, instead of buying small monochrome laser printers for your team in a single section in a floor, companies usually buy these large laser printers, which are usually located right at the corner of the floor. Large printers now, they cost many times. The cost of maintenance is prohibitive and they print faster. So generally the thought process is they'll be misused. So if an employee misuses the office printers and prints personal stuff, which they will always do, they can do it at much faster on a large printer. Large printers get stuck often. They are difficult to repair. And if you have only one printer on the floor, heaven help the employee. Instead, small monochrome printers cost very little, and they can be repaired by the employee himself or herself. So you can keep a track of paper rather than keeping a track of who printed what. So if you discourage the cost of printers, then invest in an ERP. That makes more sense, not a large mammoth single printer. An ERP reduces the dependence on MS Word, MS Excel, MS PowerPoint, documents, and again also an email to a large extent. So that would be a more wise decision to spend rather than buying large printers for every floor where the employee has to get up and get the printout. Because he doesn't have an ERP, he can't communicate effectively without a printer. Again, a good example would be a credit card reader in a point of sale, which is directly connected to the billing software in a supermarket. That will save precious 30 seconds from each customer's clearing. That is an essential tool. Otherwise, the sales clerk will have to feed the amount in an unconnected credit card reader and waste time. Investment in this small tool will reap much greater rewards than the cost. So I hope I'm driving home the point. Another example would be a construction company that will fare much better in if all of their uniformed masons carry a right pack of good quality tools. Again, this does not cost much, but it's a very tempting thing to do away with. While a CEO is cost cutting, he's on he's subject to that ghost of cost cutting. He say, okay, fine. Why does every person, every mechanic or every plumber need a good quality spanner or a monkey wrench, whatever you call it? You can share them. That creates inefficiencies, that creates problems between workers. So these are just a few examples. You can look around and find your own examples. So, and in the end, if you want me to come and take a look at your company's problems, you can get in touch with me through a message below. That's all for today. I'm Debasish Roy, and you are watching CEO Capsule.